Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe, and hit the bell icon for latest updates. Long before TV cameras showed up or TV networks started calling, Ian Roussel was just a kid living in the California desert. He was really good at building things that most people couldn't even think of. He was born without having big city garages or school training, so he learned how to build cars in the most unusual way possible by just doing it. His first projects were put together from whatever he could find. Old car frames, rusty body parts, and broken machine pieces he saved from forgotten junkyards. In a place where there wasn't much stuff, being creative was like money, and Ian had lots of it. The desert made him who he was. There was no safety net, no easy way to get new parts. If something broke, you either fixed it yourself or you went without it. That constant challenge made his problem-solving skills better and gave his work a tough, survivor quality that would shape his whole career. His first working cars weren't smooth show cars. They were rough, loud, and a little bit dangerous. But they moved, they worked, and they had the clear mark of a builder who did everything himself. He wasn't trying to follow trends or get in magazines. In those early years, Ian's only viewers were a small group of friends and fellow car lovers who understood what it meant to create something out of nothing. His shop was a makeshift outdoor workspace with tools laid out on wooden tables, welders powered by long extension cords, and the desert wind blowing across every project he worked on. There were no drawings or computer designs. Ian didn't measure twice and cut once. He measured once, trusted his gut feeling, and cut with confidence. His style came from instinct, flowing straight from his imagination to steel without taking detours. This wasn't just building stuff. It was like making sculptures that had engines. Looking back, Ian says those years were the most pure he's ever known in building cars. No sponsors, no TV deadlines, just a man, the metal, and the desert sun. It was here, in this harsh and lonely workshop, that the rebel spirit of Ian Roussel was born. If most builders start with a plan, Ian Roussel was the guy who threw the plan in the fire pit. His way of working was raw and driven by instinct. He didn't work from blueprints, computer files, or step-by-step guides. Instead, he used a mental picture that changed as the car came to life. He might start with a rusty frame and an engine block, then decide while welding that the roof line should curve lower or that the back fenders should be taken from a completely different car make and time period. It was a kind of controlled mess that only he seemed to understand. This way of making things up as he went wasn't because he was lazy. It was instinct that got better from years of hands-on work. Ian believed that planning too much killed creativity. If you know exactly how it's going to end, where's the fun? He often said that thinking allowed his cars to surprise even him. One-of-a-kind hot rods, wild rat rod mix-ups, cars that looked like they'd driven straight out of a Mad Max movie. His creations didn't just stand out, they stood completely alone. Working without formal designs also meant he could change things quickly. If a part didn't fit, he changed it. If the shape felt wrong, he cut it apart and started again. It was a fearless way of building that many people in the custom car world liked, but few dared to copy. There was danger, of course. Without a roadmap, a project could eat up months of work with no promise of success. But for Ian, that not knowing what would happen was part of the reward. His cars weren't perfect like showroom cars. They were alive. The welds told a story. The rusty look wasn't painted on. And the weird parts weren't mistakes. They were like signatures. Every finished car felt like a part of his personality. In a business full of builders try and make things perfectly even and perfect, Ian's no blueprints way was more than just a technique. It was like saying he wanted freedom. Ian's jump from desert craftsman to famous TV person happened almost by accident. He wasn't looking for fame. If anything, being in the spotlight made him uncomfortable. But word about his wild, one-of-a-kind creations began spreading beyond the desert. Social media posts from friends, blurry photos in small hot rod websites, and people talking at car part swap meets started building his legend. It was only a matter of time before TV producers noticed him. When MAVTV came to him about doing a show, Ian wasn't sure about it. He'd seen what TV could do. Overproduced builds, fake deadlines, drama just for TV ratings. He wanted nothing to do with that. But the idea for full custom garage promised something different. A chance to show his process, raw and real, without a team of writers telling him what to say or do. That freedom convinced him to give it a try. The first season was unlike anything else on car TV. There were no fake shop fights or scripted breakdowns. Just Ian, some scrap metal, a welder, and his imagination. The show captured the dirt, the trying and failing, and the small wins that came with building a car from the ground up in a modest shop. Viewers who were tired of polished reality shows connected right away. As the seasons went on, Full Custom Garage got loyal fans. It wasn't just about the cars. It was about watching a man create something with his own hands, without giving up his ideas. Ian became a symbol for builders who felt left behind by the Instagram age of flashy wraps and bolt-on changes. Ironically, the very thing he didn't trust television made him a hero to car purists around the world. When Ian talks about the custom car world, his eyes light up most when remembering the 1980s and 1990s, the time he calls the golden age. Back then, he says, builders worked for the love of the craft, not for sponsorship deals or social media likes. Shops were smaller, the deadlines were longer, and every build felt like a piece of the builder's soul. Swap meets were the heart of the scene. Builders would dig through piles of parts, argue over rare finds, and trade stories late into the night. There were no computer programs pushing trends. New ideas came from need, not hashtags. If you wanted something unique, you built it yourself or convinced a fellow craftsman to take on the challenge. For Ian, this was a time when mistakes were part of the process and weird things were celebrated. A panel that didn't match or a bracket made by hand wasn't a flaw. It was a mark of being real. The cars from that time told a story about the builder as much as the machine. He also remembers how people helped each other. Rival shops might compete for the same trophies, but they'd lend each other tools or help out to finish a project before a big show. There was a sense of community that Ian feels has worn away over time. To him, the golden era wasn't just about the cars. It was about the mindset. Builders were dreamers first and businessmen second. They didn't build for views or viral posts. They built because something inside them needed to exist in steel and chrome. That purity, Ian believes, is the soul that's slipping away from today's custom scene. For Ian Roussel, the turning point wasn't one single event. It was a slow change that crept into the custom car scene over the last 20 years. The first wave came when TV networks discovered car building as content. Suddenly, the craft was being squeezed into 42-minute episodes with fake drama, sponsor requirements, and an unspoken rule. The build had to be TV-friendly, even if it meant giving up the vision. The second wave was money. Big budgets started flowing into shops that had never seen that kind of cash before. With sponsorships came duties, logos to display, products to use, and deadlines that fit marketing campaigns, not the builder's schedule. Ian noticed that many shops began putting what would sell over what they truly wanted to create. It went from building for the love of it to building for the camera. He says the final blow in his eyes was when even small independent builders started chasing the same formula. The natural, unpredictable, and sometimes messy process that made customs unique was being replaced by staged reveal moments and cookie-cutter builds designed to fit trends. The heart of the scene, trying new things, risk, and personal style was being traded for mass appeal. For Ian, this wasn't just a change in process. It was a change in soul. Where there used to be grease under the nails and late nights for the love of the craft, now there were marketing meetings and brand deals. The cars got shinier, he says, but the passion got duller. If TV reshaped the custom car scene, social media made that change even faster. Ian admits that websites like Instagram and YouTube have helped some builders reach people they never could before, but at a cost. It stopped being about the build, he says, and started being about the post. In the past, a custom car was shown at a show or in a garage, and the reaction came from seeing it in person. Now, the reveal is a 30-second video clip edited for maximum likes, often before the car is even finished. Ian believes this has encouraged a culture where looks beat substance, where bolt-on changes and flashy wraps can get more attention than months of building from scratch. Worse, it's made the work throwaway. Builds are made faster, photographed, posted, and then forgotten when the next viral project drops. The sense of lasting that once came with a custom creation has been replaced by a scroll and swipe mentality. Ian also sees a subtle pressure on builders to design for the camera rather than the road. Size, stance, and even paint colors are chosen to look good on screen, not necessarily to work in real life. For him, that's backwards. A car should blow your mind when you hear it start up, not just when you double tap it, he says. While he uses social media himself, Ian treats it as a tool, not the goal. He posts the process, the welding, the grinding, the half-finished mess. And because that's the part most people don't show anymore. If you're not willing to get dirty, he says, you're not really building. As the business changed, Ian faced a choice. Adapt to the new system or double down on his own terms. Networks pitched him ideas for bigger, flashier projects, often with impossible deadlines and sponsor requirements. They wanted him to add drama, hire a bigger crew, and stage moments to keep audiences hooked. Ian's answer was simple. No. This refusal cost him opportunities, bigger budgets, more exposure, but it also protected what mattered most to him: creative control. He kept his builds raw and personal, working in the same modest shop, using the same hands-on methods he always had. If you hand me a script, I'm out, he says. I'm not here to act. I'm here to build. By staying real, Ian has kept a fiercely loyal fan base that values honesty over show. He doesn't hide the mistakes. If a weld cracks, if a panel warps, if something doesn't fit, it makes the final cut. In a world of perfect before and after shots, that honesty is rare, but it hasn't been easy. Turning down money, making offers, means living with less. It means some projects take years instead of months. It means saying no when every instinct as a businessman says yes. Yet Ian insists the trade-off is worth it. At the end of the day, I have to look at that car and know it's mine, not a committee's. For Ian, staying real isn't about fighting change just to fight it. It's about protecting the soul of his works. And if that means building fewer cars, but keeping them real, he's fine with that. For all his criticism of the modern scene, Ian Roussel hasn't lost the spark that made him pick up a welder in the first place. In fact, the projects that excite him most today are often the weird, unexpected ones. Builds that challenge every rule and make no sense to anyone but him. If I'm not a little scared to start it, he says, it's probably not worth doing. Some of these come from junkyard rescues, rusted-out hulks with no resale value, but endless potential in Ian's hands. He loves taking something everyone else wrote off and turning it into a rolling piece of sculpture. One recent build began as a mangled 40s pickup frame he found half buried in the desert. Most people saw scrap metal. Ian saw the backbone for a channeled chopped creation that looks like it belongs in a post-apocalyptic movie. Then there are the bizarre mashups, as he calls them. Combinations of parts from different eras and makes that shouldn't work, but somehow do. Mixing motorcycle tanks with hot rod frames, reusing aircraft parts, or making panels from old industrial scrap. These builds don't win beauty contests, but they turn heads, spark conversations, and feel like pure freedom on four wheels. For Ian, it's not about market value or awards. It's about the thrill of creating something that didn't exist yesterday. Those are the builds that make me feel like a kid again. He says, no deadlines, no audience to please, just me, the tools and the metal. When Ian talks about where the custom car scene is headed, he doesn't make it sound nice. He sees two separate paths. One controlled by high-budget, brand-heavy builds designed for shows, cameras, and social media fame. And another smaller path where independent builders still work out of modest garages, creating for the love of it. The first path he believes will continue to grow more sponsorships, more content-driven builds, and a faster turnover of trends. It's not all bad. He admits some amazing work comes out of those shops, but you can tell when the car was built to sell and not to live. The second path is where Ian hopes the real soul of the industry survives. He pictures more grassroots gatherings, local cruises, and underground shows where builders can present their work without the pressure of likes and views. He wants to see younger builders embrace the long, sometimes frustrating process of building from scratch because, as he puts it, that's where you really learn who you are as a fabricator. Ian's biggest worry is that fewer young people are learning traditional skills. Welding, metal shaping, and building are being overshadowed by bolt-on culture. Without those basic abilities, he fears the industry will become dependent on pre-made parts and lose its originality. You can't fake craftsmanship, he says. And if we lose that, we lose everything. Despite all his complaints, Ian Roussel is still in the shop, still getting dirty, and still building. At 56, he has nothing left to prove. No network boss to impress, no sponsor to keep happy. His motivation is simpler now. He builds because it's who he is. Most days start the same way. Coffee, a walk through the desert to clear his head, then hours in the shop surrounded by half-finished projects. He works alone or with a trusted friend or two, keeping the pace slow and the atmosphere focused. There's no production crew, no countdown clock, just the sound of grinders, welders, and his favorite old-school rock records in the background. When he finishes a build, the satisfaction isn't in how many people see it online. It's in watching it roll out of the shop under its own power. That's the payoff, he says. Knowing I made something that will outlive me. And even though he's been outspoken about the problems in the industry, Ian hasn't given up on its future. He still teaches younger builders, when he can, passing on the skills and mindset that shaped his career. If the soul of custom cars is going to survive, he believes it will be in the hands of those willing to do it for the love, not the likes. For Ian Roussel, the fight to keep that soul alive isn't over. And as long as he's got a welder, a pile of steel, and a vision, it never will.